The Phantom slipped silently through the darkness of the outer solar system, its experimental stealth systems rendering it virtually invisible to conventional detection methods. Inside the cramped command center, Captain Alvarez studied the tactical display with narrowed eyes. Approaching Neptune's orbit, Lieutenant Kowalski reported, her voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel through space. Something about their mission had everyone speaking in hushed tones. "Status of the anomalous signature?" Alvarez asked. "Still present, Captain. Energy pattern matches nothing in our database." Kowalski hesitated. "It's pulsing now, almost like a heartbeat." Dr. Reyes' warning echoed in Alvarez's mind. "This isn't random cosmic noise. It's structured. It's communication." The Council had dismissed her, but Commander Chen had trusted her enough to risk his career on this unauthorized mission. "Magnify Sector 47," Alvarez ordered. The view screen shifted, and collective gasps filled the bridge. Nestled within Neptune's outermost ring was something unmistakably artificial. A sleek structure of unknown metal that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "My God," whispered Chief Engineer Puddle. "That's not one of ours." "Multiple structures detected," Kowalski reported, her voice tight with controlled panic. They're everywhere throughout the ring system, using the ice particles as camouflage." Patel's analysis came seconds later. "Captain, these structures appear to be observation posts. They're pointed toward Earth." Alvarez felt ice form in her veins. "How long have they been watching us?" "Based on dust accumulation patterns, months, possibly years." The communications officer, Tran, suddenly stiffened. "Captain, I'm detecting a transmission. It's massive. Data packets larger than anything I've ever seen." "Source: the largest structure. Target designate Alpha." "Sir, they're transmitting toward something beyond Pluto. Something big." Before Alvarez could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. The tactical display exploded with new contacts materializing from behind Neptune's moon Triton. "Vessels approaching. Configuration unknown." Kowalski's professional composure finally cracked. "Captain, they're accelerating at over 50 Gs. No human ship could manage that." "Battle stations," Alvarez ordered calmly, though her heart hammered against her ribs. "Tran, prepare the quantum burst transmitter. Download everything we're seeing and send it to Lunar Command." As the alien vessels rapidly closed distance, their true size became apparent. The smallest dwarfed the largest Earth battleship. "We've been scanned," Paddle reported. "They've locked onto us somehow, despite our stealth systems." Alvarez made the only decision possible. "Kowalski, plot an escape vector, maximum burn. Tran, send that transmission now. Everything we've recorded goes to Earth." "Captain," Tran said, voice steady despite everything. "Should I include a message?" Alvarez looked at the approaching vessels. Their sleek, predatory forms unlike anything human minds had conceived. She nodded. Tell them we are not alone. And tell them to prepare." As the Phantom's engines ignited, attempting to outrun the impossible, the quantum transmission reached the lunar observatory where Dr. Elena Reyes watched her worst fears materialize on the screen before her. Humanity's first contact would not be peaceful, and they had precious little time to prepare. Commander Chen stood amidst the smoldering ruins of what had once been Rio de Janeiro's coastal defense center. The Caraxi's second wave had struck with even greater fury than the first, targeting military installations with devastating precision. Yet something about their attack pattern troubled him. "They're avoiding population centers," he muttered to General Santos of the Brazilian Defense Force. "They could have leveled the entire city, but they didn't, saving us for something worse," Santos suggested, wiping blood from a gash on her forehead. "No," Chen realized with sudden clarity. "They want our infrastructure intact. The oceans, the atmosphere. They're invading, not eradicating." His neural implant buzzed with an incoming transmission from Dr. Reyes. Her holographic form materialized before him, her eyes wild with exhaustion and excitement. "Jackson, we've done it. We've cracked their command frequency encryption." "Elena, what have you found?" Chen asked, noting the dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept since learning of her sister's death aboard the Phantom. "They're communicating on quantum frequencies we'd never considered viable, but we managed to isolate and decode a tactical briefing from their command ship." Her voice trembled. "They designated Earth as a Type 7 acquisition. According to their protocols, that means they intend to harvest our oceans, capture human specimens for study, and establish a permanent colony." General Santos spat on the ground. "They want to make us an exhibit in their damn zoo." "Worse," Rice continued. "Their directives specifically mention preserving human cognitive function while eliminating resistance capacity. They plan to keep us conscious but compliant while they experiment." Chen's implant pinged again, this time with global defense metrics. The numbers were grim. Earth had lost 60% of its offensive capabilities in the first 2 attacks. Conventional warfare against the Caraxi would be suicide. "General Santos," Chen said after a moment of heavy silence, "what do you know about the indigenous tribes in the Amazon?" Santos looked puzzled. "They've maintained their traditional ways despite centuries of outside pressure. Many still use hunting techniques passed down for generations. Why? Because they've survived against overwhelming technological superiority before," Chen said, a dangerous glint in his eye. "And we need teachers." He turned back to Reyes' hologram. "Elena, how many civilian telecommunications satellites remain functional?" "About 40%. The Caraxi ignored most of our commercial infrastructure." "Perfect. I need a secure channel to every resistance pocket on Earth, and I need it within the hour." Chen's expression hardened. "The Caraxi expect us to fight like a modern military. We're going to disappoint them." Reyes nodded grimly. "What should I tell the Council?" "Tell them I'm implementing Operation Terra's Fury effective immediately. Then get your team working on a way to disrupt Caraxi neural implants. If they want our minds intact, let's show them exactly what human minds are capable of when threatened." As Chen ended the transmission, General Santos studied him with newfound respect and concern. "Operation Terra's Fury. What exactly does that entail, Commander?" Chen looked toward the horizon, where Caraxi ships still hovered like predatory insects. "It means we stop fighting like we're afraid to lose civilization." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "And start fighting like we've already lost it." Admiral Zorn watched the battlefield hologram with increasing agitation as another Caraxi patrol disappeared from the tactical display. This marked the 5th squad lost in the Amazon basin within the past solar cycle. "Explain," he demanded of the trembling tactical officer. "Admiral, we believe the humans have developed some form of biological agent that targets our environmental systems." The officer's voice wavered. The patrol reported local flora releasing spores before all contact was lost. "Impossible," Zorn snarled. "Their primitive science couldn't possibly." "They didn't create it," interrupted a new voice. Zorn turned to see one of the few remaining xenobiologists from Lieutenant Drax's original research team. "The indigenous population is using naturally occurring compounds they've known about for centuries. They've simply concentrated them." The hologram shifted to surveillance footage, showing a Caraxi soldier collapsing as his armor began to disintegrate from within. The ship's atmosphere suddenly felt thin to Zorn. "And the urban centers?" he demanded. The tactical display zoomed to Shanghai, where a different nightmare unfolded. A teenage human female, identified as Lin Wei according to intelligence briefings, appeared on dozens of screens throughout the occupied city. Her broadcasts showed how to modify commonplace electronic devices to emit frequencies that wreaked havoc on Caraxi neural implants. "We can't jam their broadcasts," the communications officer admitted. "They're using our own quantum channels against us, embedding their signals within our secure communications." Zorn's fist smashed into the display, cracking its surface. "How? How are they adapting so quickly? The xenobiologist cleared her throat. Admiral, I've analyzed their information-sharing networks. Unlike our hierarchical command structure, humans operate with distributed intelligence. Each resistance cell operates independently, but shares innovations instantly through their global communication web. One solution becomes thousands within hours. The display shifted again to orbital view, showing the devastating aftermath of the suicide attack by the human pilot Alejandro Reyes. The wreckage of the Caraxi command carrier still burned in the upper atmosphere, spreading debris that complicated fleet operations. One primitive aircraft should not have been able to penetrate our defenses, Zorn muttered. They removed all safety protocols and overloaded the fusion engines, the engineer explained reluctantly. The pilot deliberately sacrificed himself for a tactical advantage. For the first time in his centuries-long career, Admiral Zorn felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping up his spine. Before he could identify it, alarms blared throughout the command ship. Multiple electromagnetic anomalies detected planet-wide. The sensor officer reported, genuine fear in her voice. Energy signature matches nothing in our records. Across Earth, from hidden bunkers and makeshift laboratories, a coordinated pulse of precisely modulated electromagnetic energy radiated outward. The frequency, exactly matching the resonance of Caraxi neural implants, penetrated shields designed to stop weapons, not information. Aboard the command ship, Zorn watched in horror as his bridge crew began to convulse, their implants overloading with contradictory signals. He reached for his neural dampener, but his arm refused to obey. As darkness crept into his vision, one thought burned in his mind with perfect clarity. This was fear, and for the first time, the Caraxi were experiencing it at the hands of prey that had become predator. Captain Sarah Mbiki floated in darkness, suspended in the neural interface fluid that now replaced her paralyzed body. The experimental neural implants Dr. Wei had grafted directly to her brainstem pulsed with alien code and human consciousness intertwined. Connection stable. Dr. Wei's voice echoed through her neural link. How does it feel, Captain? Sarah opened eyes that no longer existed physically and saw through the sensors of the captured Caraxi fighter. The sensation was disorienting, exhilarating, and terrifying simultaneously. I'm everywhere in the ship, she whispered, her thoughts translated to sound by the interface. I can feel its systems like they're extensions of my body. On the observation deck, Commander Chen watched with a mixture of hope and unease as the fighter's engines glowed to life without any physical pilot present. The neural integration is complete, Dr. Wei reported. Her consciousness is fully merged with the ship's systems. And her human mind? Chen asked quietly. Is she still Sarah? Dr. Wei's expression remained clinical, though something haunted lingered in his eyes. The human mind is more adaptable than we ever imagined. She's still Sarah, but she's also something more now. In the neural tank, Sarah experimented with movement. The fighter responded instantaneously, executing maneuvers that would have crushed a physical pilot under forces no human body could withstand. Without physical limitations, she pushed the ship beyond its design parameters, systems protesting but yielding to her will. This is, she paused, searching for words that didn't exist in human language. I understand them now. The Caraxi. Their ships aren't just vessels. They're extensions of consciousness. But they've imposed limits on their integration, fearing loss of identity. I have no such constraints. 20 similar tanks lined the walls of the repurposed medical bay, each containing a volunteer, many with terminal injuries from the initial attacks. In each, the same transformation was occurring as human minds merged with alien technology. Task Force Phoenix is ready for deployment, Commander, Dr. Wei announced. All 20 neural pilots report successful integration. Chen approached Sarah's tank and placed his hand against the transparent surface. Captain Mbeki, are you prepared for combat operations? Sarah's voice came through the speakers, sounding distant yet intimately present. More than ready, Commander. The Caraxi understand their technology as tools. We understand them as parts of ourselves. She paused, then added with what would have been a smile if she still had a physical face. They built these ships with safety protocols and operational constraints. I've deleted them all. We fight unrestricted. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Zorn's recovery fleet prepared for their final assault on Earth. Intelligence suggested the humans had been crippled by the previous attacks, their primitive defenses overwhelmed. Victory was assured. Admiral, his tactical officer reported. Sensors detect unusual energy signatures emerging from Earth's atmosphere. Configuration unknown. Zorn dismissed the concern with a gesture. Whatever desperate measures they've cobbled together will fail. Begin the attack sequence. As the Caraxi fleet accelerated toward Earth, Task Force Phoenix rose to meet them. 20 hybrid vessels piloted by human consciousness, unfettered by physical limitations, capable of maneuvers that defied the laws of physics as the Caraxi understood them. In her neural tank, Sarah Mbiki felt something she hadn't experienced since the injury that paralyzed her body. Freedom. And as the enemy fleet approached, she prepared to show them exactly what that freedom meant. Grand Marshal Kivek stood before the holographic projection of Earth, studying the blue planet with calculated interest. Unlike Admiral Zorn, he had not dismissed the intelligence reports about human adaptability. Victory required understanding one's enemy. "Show me their lunar colony," he commanded. The hologram shifted to Earth's moon, where human structures dotted the gray landscape. Sensor readings indicated minimal defensive capabilities and limited population. The humans appear to have abandoned most lunar operations during our initial assault, his intelligence officer reported. Satellites show evacuation vessels departing shortly after Admiral Zorn's first attack. Kivex's cybernetic eye whirred as it zoomed in on specific structures. Curious. They've left their mining equipment intact. And these power signatures. He tapped a metallic finger against his jaw implant. Why maintain energy generation for an abandoned outpost? Perhaps hasty evacuation, Grand Marshal. No, Kivex decided. Humans don't abandon resources without purpose. Mark the lunar installations as priority targets. I want them destroyed before we enter Earth orbit. Meanwhile, in the secured bunker beneath what remained of Geneva, Commander Chen received the transmission he'd been waiting for. The quantum-encrypted signal originated from a previously unknown world in the Orion Spur. Connection established. The communications officer announced. Captain Mbiki is online. The holographic display flickered to life, showing not Sarah's human form, but a visualization of her neural signature, a swirling pattern of light and data. Report, Captain, Chen ordered. Operation Wildfire exceeds all projections, Commander. Her voice carried an otherworldly harmonic, the result of her consciousness integration with alien systems. The Mithrai homeworld is liberated. Their telepathic abilities, once suppressed by Caraxi technology, have been weaponized against their oppressors. Images flashed across the display, crystalline beings shattering their bonds, energy-based lifeforms reclaiming stellar harvesting stations, insectoid species overwhelming Caraxi outposts through sheer numbers. 7 species have joined our coalition, Mbiki continued. Each brings capabilities the Caraxi deliberately suppressed. Together, they're dismantling Imperial supply chains and command structures across 17 systems. Chen allowed himself a moment of pride before reality reasserted itself. The Grand Marshal's Armada. 6 hours from lunar orbit, Dr. Rice interjected, entering the command center. Our spy satellites confirm they're deploying planet-killer weaponry. Technology unlike anything in Zorn's arsenal. They've noticed the lunar installation, Chen concluded. Rice nodded grimly. Kivex is thorough. He won't make Zorn's mistakes. Chen activated the global command channel. All units, Operation Artemis is now active. Initiate lunar defensive measures and prepare for gravitational disruption. Across Earth, civilians and military personnel moved to reinforced shelters built according to specifications derived from captured Caraxi data. In orbit, the remains of Task Force Phoenix positioned themselves as a seemingly futile last line of defense. Aboard his flagship, Grand Marshal Kivex watched the approaching lunar surface with growing suspicion. Something wasn't right. The human defenses were too weak, too obviously vulnerable. "Scan deeper," he ordered. Full spectrum analysis of lunar subsurface. The results came seconds later, causing even the veteran Grand Marshal to step back in surprise. The entire lunar mass showed evidence of artificial restructuring at the quantum level. Impossible levels of energy built beneath the surface. Evasive maneuvers. Kivex shouted, "All ships withdraw immediately." His warning came too late. The moon, humanity's first foothold beyond Earth, had been converted into the largest weapon ever conceived. Commander Chen's assault team fought their way through Kivex's flagship, moving through corridors designed for beings taller and broader than humans. The artificial gravity shifted unpredictably, a defense mechanism triggered by the boarding action, making each step a calculation. 6 more hostiles. Junction ahead, reported Lieutenant Svetlana Petrov, her modified neural implant detecting Caraxi life signs through the bulkhead. Unlike the full neural integration of Task Force Phoenix, Petrov's enhancements were subtle, allowing her to perceive Caraxi neural signatures while maintaining her physical form. Chen signaled to the remaining members of the strike team, a mosaic of Earth's surviving Special Forces operators. Only 7 remained from the original 20 that had launched from the stealth insertion vessel. Each carried weapons cobbled together from human ingenuity and Caraxi technology, projectile launchers that fired ammunition phased partially out of normal spacetime, bypassing conventional shields. "Remember," Chen reminded them, "we need access to the command center. Kivex must be captured alive if possible." The team nodded grimly. After the lunar gravity weapon had decimated a third of the Caraxi fleet, the counterattack had begun. But Chen knew the remaining Caraxi forces could still reduce Earth's surface to molten slag if Kivex gave the order. They breached the junction in perfect synchronization, weapons firing with precision born of desperate practice. 5 Caraxi fell immediately. The 6th, larger and bearing the markings of an elite guard, activated a personal shield that absorbed their attacks. "Down," Petrov shouted as the guard deployed a dispersal weapon. Too late. 3 team members disintegrated instantly as molecular bonds in their bodies simply ceased to exist. Chen rolled behind a structural support, Petrov at his side, while the remaining 2 operators provided covering fire from the opposite flank. "We need a new approach," Chen muttered, assessing their dwindling options. Petrov's eyes narrowed as she studied her neural readout. "Sir, the shield modulates on a predictable frequency. If we time our shots precisely between pulses." She never finished. The elite guard charged their position with unexpected speed, disintegration weapon primed. The 2 operators across the junction fired, missing the timing Petrov had identified. Their weapons had no effect. "For Earth," Petrov whispered, then launched herself directly at the guard. Chen shouted for her to stop, but she was already committed. Her body collided with the guard's shield, which rippled but held. The guard raised its weapon to Petrov's face. In that moment, she activated the dead man's switch she'd been carrying since boarding. The miniaturized antimatter charge implanted in her chest detonated, creating a momentary rupture in spacetime that no shield could contain. When Chen's vision cleared, both Petrov and the guard were gone. A perfect sphere had been carved from the corridor where they had stood. "Commander," one of the surviving operators called urgently. "The path is clear. Command center ahead." Chen stared at the void where Petrov had been, then gathered himself. Her sacrifice would mean nothing if they failed now. "Move," he ordered, leading the final push toward where Grand Marshal Kivex awaited, unaware that his last line of defense had fallen to human willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. The walls of the Imperial Citadel pulsed with an unsettling organic rhythm, as though the entire structure were alive. Commander Chen, Maya Reyes, and the Myth-Rai telepath Tells moved cautiously through corridors that seemed to shift and rearrange themselves. "It's responding to our presence," Tells whispered, his crystalline skin reflecting the eerie bioluminescence. "The entire citadel is semi-sentient." Maya, her young face hardened by months of conflict, studied the interface panel she'd modified from her mother's designs. The neural architecture is similar to the implants the Caraxi use, but vastly more complex. It's like the entire building is one massive brain. Chen checked their position on the three-dimensional holographic map they'd constructed from stolen intelligence. "We're approaching the central chamber. According to the defector Caval, that's where we'll find both the Emperor and the Void Protocol control nexus." Their mission had already cost dearly. Of the 8-person infiltration team representing each allied species, 5 had fallen to the Citadel's increasingly desperate defenses. The Solarian Luminera had sacrificed herself to absorb a quantum disruption field that would have torn them all apart at the molecular level. The Viridian twins had been lost when a security bulkhead unexpectedly sealed, trapping them in a section that was subsequently flooded with anti-organic particles. "I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations ahead," Maya reported, her fingers dancing across the interface. "Whatever the Void Protocol is, it's drawing power equivalent to a small star." "Can you disable it from here?" Chen asked. Maya shook her head. "The systems are too integrated with the Emperor himself. We need direct access to the primary control node." Tell suddenly stiffened, his crystalline form vibrating at a frequency that made Chen's teeth ache. "Minds," the Myth-Rai gasped. "Billions of minds, preserved but suffering. Just ahead." The massive door before them began to part, revealing the Imperial throne room. What they saw defied comprehension. The chamber stretched impossibly far, its walls lined with countless transparent chambers containing specimens from hundreds, perhaps thousands of species. Some Chen recognized from the Alliance, others were entirely alien. All were suspended in a state between life and death, their essences somehow being slowly drained toward the center of the room. There, seated upon a throne of shifting, liquid metal, was the Emperor. No longer recognizably Caraxi, the being had incorporated genetic material and technology from countless species into a form that constantly shifted and changed. Tentacles of pure energy extended from its body to the suspended specimens, drawing something luminous from each. "Welcome, final pieces," the Emperor spoke, its voice somehow resonating directly in their minds. "You have arrived precisely when the Great Ascension requires you." Maya gasped as her interface sparked and died in her hands. "He's integrated with everything. The building, the specimens, the protocol itself. What are you doing to them?" Chen demanded, gesturing toward the imprisoned beings. The Emperor's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Not doing. Becoming. Each consciousness, each genetic sequence, each unique perspective adds to the whole. For eons, we have harvested the galaxy's sentient diversity, preparing for transcendence." Tells's mental voice reached Chen and Maya privately. "He's lying. This isn't transcendence, it's consumption. The energy pattern matches exactly what Dr. Reyes predicted would create a dimensional collapse." The Emperor rose from his throne, towering above them as his form continued to shift and morph. "Your species was the final catalyst required. Humans, with your unique neural plasticity and adaptive consciousness. Join us willingly and experience the birth of a god." 5 years after the Emperor's fall, Commander, now Admiral, Chen stood aboard the Confederation flagship Terra's Legacy, watching Earth grow larger in the viewscreen. The ship, a revolutionary design incorporating technologies from all 27 member species, moved with a grace that belied its massive size. "Nervous about your speech?" Dr. Elena Reyes asked, joining him at the observation deck. The years had etched new lines around her eyes, but they now held a piece that had been absent during the war. A little, Chen admitted. It's not every day you commemorate saving the galaxy. Maya is excited to show you the memorial garden, Reyes said with a smile. She's expanded it again, added a section with plants from the newly admitted Proxima system. Chen nodded, his thoughts drifting to that final confrontation in the Imperial Citadel. They had succeeded in disabling the Void Protocol, but the cost had been nearly unbearable. So many lost, so many sacrificed to stop the Emperor's insane bid for transcendence. The ship docked at the Europa station, now the headquarters of the Galactic Confederation. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for the 5-year commemoration of what was now called the Liberation War. As Chen made his way to the ceremony, he marveled at the diversity surrounding him. Crystalline Mithrai communing telepathically with floating Solarians. Phase-shifting tachyons engaged in rapid-fire debates with the collective consciousness of the quantum collective. Even reformed Caraxi, their neural implants removed, participated as equals, many of them still processing the revelation that their own species had been manipulated as thoroughly as those they had conquered. The memorial garden took his breath away. Lin Wei, now a renowned xenobotanist, had created something truly extraordinary. Plants from every member world coexisted in a carefully balanced ecosystem, each species contributing to the whole. Some bloomed with colors beyond human visual range. Others communicated through electrical fields or pheromones that required special interfaces to perceive. At the center stood a simple holographic display showing the Earth as seen from space, the blue marble that had sparked a revolution across the stars. An elderly Mithrai approached Chen, his crystalline form dulled with age, but still magnificent. "Admiral Chen," the alien greeted with a respectful bow. "I have long wished to ask you something." "Of course," Chen replied. "My people were enslaved for 17 generations. The Viridians for 32. The Solarians for over 100. Yet none of us fought back with the ferocity that humanity displayed after mere days of invasion." The Mithrai's mental voice carried genuine curiosity. "What makes your species different?" Chen considered the question carefully, looking around at the gathered representatives of a now peaceful galaxy. "Throughout our history," he finally answered, "humans have imagined meeting other intelligent life. In our stories, films, and dreams, we contemplated what it would mean to not be alone in the universe. When the Caraxi arrived, they expected us to see aliens, threats, others." He gestured to the diverse beings throughout the garden. "Instead, we saw people. Different, yes, but people with the same fundamental right to freedom and dignity that humans have always cherished." The Mithrai's crystalline structure resonated with understanding. "You fought not just for yourselves." "No," Chen agreed, watching as Maya Reyes demonstrated a new neural interface that allowed different species to share sensory experiences. "We fought for everyone. Because that's what humans do when we're at our best. We expand our circle of concern beyond ourselves."